Om Vim Dim Kam Tam. Paravakashaham Lam Tam Kalam. Para Brahman Para Kalam. Para Sibabala Shahadam Yam Tam. Yadaktadim Yem Shavim Yem Tar Baham Yam Vam Kalam. Vedir tehim yemdor, vehidiktim sayashak vitam kalvedim yemtar. Dem tekvedim yemtar vaham. Shri Shiva. O de di diktilem diedele dikte hedelem yemdrem sehishek vedikte him papa mahamaya ishwara. Welcome to this video on the Zen Warrior channel. My name is Sri Satguru Buddha Rawa Bhagwan. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about Limpia, the practice of cleansing. Okay. There are different people who practice Limpia. And Limpia is, you might be familiar with this, you might have seen this before, a form of cleansing. And you use herbs, mixing different herbs, different branches of herbs, fresh herbs, and you brush the body, right, to remove. And you do other things. Some people use an egg, move an egg around the body to absorb in the egg the impurity, the bad things, right? Some people use sprays to try to cleanse the aura, okay? Some people burn sticks, holy woods, to purify the area, purify the aura, or to close or to open a portal sometimes. Okay. Also, some people burn incense sometimes, and some people also have a spray or an alcohol that they spray, that they shoot from their mouth. So you spit the alcohol, and you go, and the alcohol goes like that, and it cleanses the aura, cleanses what's there, right? So there's different techniques, or different substances can be used instead of alcohol. And some people also use cigar smoke, for example, and smoke out the person with smoke in the cigar smoke or something like that, or cigarette smoke or something like that. Some people use other different techniques. Okay, there are many techniques of cleansing, but these are the traditional ones that you see for Limpia. Okay, so Limpia is when you basically decide that there's something on you, you know. So yes, this does exist. Things do go on you, okay? In one realm, you can visualize that there's all these little clinging stories or beings, okay, that are basically following you around, that follow your track when you move and get to you and try to get onto you, okay? One way of seeing it is bacteria, if you want to see it that way, or viruses, okay? For living things that basically want to cling to you and to follow you and to get into your auric field. Okay, so there are levels, different lokas that can be experienced and you can gain knowledge about, where you see that you also protect yourself from beings that would wish to connect to you, to cling to you, to hook to you. You know, and why do they want to do that? They always want to do that to drain you. Right? To drain what you have. You drain your life force, your life energy, your life of God, your light that comes from the divine, right? So they want to drain that. So they basically find you on your path if you don't conceal your path, and can track you down and basically connect to you. And where do they like to connect to you the most? On your back, obviously, because it's your less defended areas, right? The back of your body, right? So, you know, it's harder to brush yourself, for example, in the back than it is in the front. So that's an example of why they like to do that, you know. So people go for Limpia sometimes. They get cleansed, and then there's a lot involved with Limpia, with cleansing, you know. It's a traditional practice, practiced by different people. You know, it's practiced by the flower path. The flower path is one of the paths of the land, one of the paths of the Mahavu, the great story eternal of the Maya, right? There's the flower path, there is the clay path, there is the war path. Now, Ishwara, right? Ishwara, Shiva of the war path, right? So there's the path of the land, right? So the path of flowers, for example, practices a form of Limpia, right? I've seen this, some people identifying as the path of flower and the practice Limpia. And there's different people practicing it, okay? So the truth is, yes, Limpia is effective if it's done in a proper way, okay, to a certain level and degree. There's some things that you won't be able to get rid of. You won't be able to get rid of you know, area or system-wide curses. You won't be able to get rid of recurring curses. You won't be able to get rid of things that come back right away, right when you brush them, you know, or things that you can't get, or that are too powerful, coming from someone too powerful for the person doing the Limpia, right? But when you can do a Limpia, there's different ways of doing it. People can use it with their abilities as they know them. So you can have people that are proficient at doing Limpia, or you have people that know absolutely know what they're doing and just basically saw a couple of videos and are doing it, right? So you have to have an understanding of what connects, and you also have to see visually the things that connect. So you can actually see with a certain level of practice things that enter someone's auric field or connect to them or cling to them and things like that. So you would brush them aside essentially and get rid of them in that way, you know. Now there's different techniques, many different techniques on how to do it. And everybody has their secrets, their techniques of their lineages and how to do cleansings, right? But one thing you should know for someone, cleansings work, okay? In most cases, cleansings of different traditions work. Different traditions have Limpia different ways. For example, in Japan, there's a stick with white pieces of paper on it, and they brush that, and that's a form of Limpia, right? And that's with regards to the spirits of Japan, right? Of the Shinto tradition, right? And this absolutely is very effective. In many cases, it's one of the most effective ways of cleansing actually through them, okay, in the way that it's practiced in Japan. And different traditions have different things. In Mexico, for example, it's the Limpia with, you know, the herbs and sometimes the egg and all these stuff and the sprays and all these stuff. Shamans have their ways of doing it. Witches have their way of doing it. You know, different beings have their way of doing it. As an avatar, as I have my ways of cleansing as well as an avatar. So different beings have different ways of cleansing. And we exist basically in a field where many things, many stories are seeking light, seeking power, seeking energy, you know, seeking to empower themselves. And where do they get that? They get that from the centers of life, right? So the beings that have a heart, that have a mind, you know, the centers of life. Yeah, so you can cleanse yourself, right? So some people can cleanse themselves, right? There's ways to cleanse yourself. And for people who don't know how to cleanse themselves, they usually might consider having someone cleanse them if they think they're under, for example, some form of black magic, because that manifests in things that manifest in the auric field as well, right? Or even penetrating the body, penetrating. So you can see the manifestation of its presence in the auric field, but it's actually already inside. So depending on what level of penetration has been achieved by the things that are attacking that individual. So there's some things that drag you down, you know, they accumulate and they accumulate and they accumulate and they drag you down because they're not getting through, but they just accumulate weight on your back, for example. But there's some things that go through too, and those things also need to be purified in that way as well. So Limpia is a cleansing of the individual, the person spiritually, right? Spiritual cleanse. Now there's some things to take in consideration if you're going to go for a Limpia, for a spiritual cleanse, if you think that you need something like that. Okay, you want to absolutely trust the person who is doing it for you. Okay, you want them to have a reason to look at you fondly. Okay, so that they would never want to try to do something bad to you. And that's the type of person you would want to do a Limpia for you. Okay, if you go to someone, a stranger or someone in a market or somewhere on the street or something like that to do a Limpia for you, you are absolutely acting very foolishly. Okay, because There are many reasons, but you need to trust the person who's going to do Olympia for you. So, for example, in a small village in the Amazon or something like that, a small village, people living together, the village shaman might do the cleansing for other people or something like that, in his way. But they're so closely knit together that hopefully they all like each other very much, in a close-knit community. And it's that principle as well. You have to go to someone that's part of the community, someone that's trusted, right? Someone that will not try to play games with you, because understanding that all beings seek different things. Well, some beings seek to drain more power, things like that, domination over others, things like that. Okay, so you have to be very careful when you go for Olympia. There's also some things that you have to make sure that never happen when you go for Olympia, is to never let yourself be circled. Okay, but that's a general rule for everything, for all the time. You never want to let yourself be circled. Okay, you want to have protections in case someone tries to circle you or does circle you. You want to be protected in that sense against circling, because once you're circled, then you're circled. Okay, so you never ever let yourself be circled by anyone if that's possible. But in some cases, practical situations, you don't really have a choice, but you stay conscious of that and make sure that you don't acknowledge to any circling that you basically accept to, because I've seen some people pretending to do Limpias, things like that, and basically trying to summon demons into people because they circle them with something, okay, and then try to summon something into them, okay? So that's very easily done. If someone has a specific ability to connect to specific entities to try to put them into someone, and that's really not fun. So you really don't go to anyone just off the street. You don't go to someone you don't trust for Olympia. You go to someone you trust. Absolutely, 100%. You don't go to any random person, and you don't do it lightly also. Okay? You absolutely do not do Olympia lightly. Okay? So this is basically what they don't tell you usually about Olympia, is that Olympia also has its risks. Okay, as does any operation when you go for a healing. Okay, any serious operation, Olympia, is, if it's well done, is a serious operation at the spiritual level, a serious operation. Okay, that's what it is. It's not done lightly, and it has potential consequences, especially if you go to someone who's not a qualified practitioner, who has a code of ethics and standards. Okay, so you can get circled, but there's many other things that can happen. You can get cultured. Okay, cultured is when a special culture, a specific organic substance, is put, for example, within a bottle or a liquid or a spray, and is sprayed towards you. Okay, so that culture and whatever has been put inside it is essentially put inside you, creating a link between you and the individual whose culture it belongs to. Okay, so you can get cultured very easily, and as you can imagine, in Olympia with the sprays and all these things, it's very easily for something like that to happen. Okay, there's other things that can happen as well. They get within very close contact physically with you and start working at energetic levels on you. That can have disbalances on you energetically if the person doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, there's other things that can happen as well. It can be a fraud. Okay, that's a possibility. You might just lose your money, and that's probably the best thing that could happen to you, except having a proper Olympia, I guess, if you need one. But there's many other things that can happen to you. When you're doing the practice with an egg, okay, that's not a clean practice, okay? The transference of the whatever you have within you into an egg, and then breaking the egg and looking into the egg and all that, that's not a super clean practice. It's on the border edge, okay? You're doing a transference into another organic being of things within another organic being. It's right on that edge, okay? You have to watch out. It's arguable, but okay. But there's other things that can be done too, because things can be put within you with that egg as well. Okay, so that connection that can pull from you with the egg can also put things within you with the egg. And many Limpias, they also tell you we're putting in good protective spells and all that stuff, or good protective vibes in you, or something like that, blessings in you. So you've got things coming in you and you've got things coming out of you, and you've basically given control of what comes into you and what comes out of you to another individual. Okay, so you need to have a very good reason to do that, like a serious operation when you have to have a tumor removed or something like that by the doctor at the hospital, you know. Well, in the same way, you need to trust that person and you need to have a reason to do it. You don't do it lightly. Okay, so this is the truth about Limpia. You're giving access to your energetic body and basically letting someone work on you at that level and giving full acquiescence to that, you know. So you're basically saying that they know better than you spiritually. They are stronger than you spiritually and can cleanse you because you're not able to cleanse yourself. Okay, this is Limpia. Okay, so you have to understand that. Now, there's also different stories. For example, some people will tell you different stories. There's other things with Limpia that's going on. The herbs that they're using, okay? Different things can be used with the herbs as well, because the herbs can be used to brush off, but the herbs can also be used to pat in, okay? Pat in, brush off, pat in, brush off, things like that. So yes, okay, you can use that practice of the herb to brush off things that are clinging to the individual, okay? But there are other ways of an individual protecting themselves that does not involve ceding control of yourself to someone else. And if you do, that's fine, because most people cannot protect themselves from the things that cling, okay, at their current spiritual levels. But, you know, you can go to a cleanser, but make sure that you trust them, okay? If they're on the flower path, that sounds really good. You know, that's probably where you want to go. Someone on the flower path or something like that, okay, for a cleansing. But if you're thinking about going to just anybody, maybe some places you don't want to go for a cleansing, Limpia, is maybe like a witch or something like that. Or someone who goes to demonic forces or something like that, okay? That's the type of people you don't want to go for a cleansing from. Okay, because things can happen. And I'll give you one example. For example, you might be told a story that you need to come 9 times, right, for a cleansing to be truly finished and effective. Okay, but what the witch doesn't tell you is that by the 7th time, you're hers. Okay, so that's why they tell you the story of the 9 times, because by the 7th time, you're hers. Okay, because the witch will have put a connection, an energetic connection within you, that means that by the 7th time you have fallen under her, basically, okay, and basically are just are now part of her, under her in her story, okay. And by the 9 times, obviously, it's been sealed, okay. 7 times to do, 8 times to laugh, 9 times to seal. Something like that, okay? So you have to be very careful with these kind of Limpia cleansings that a witch, for example, will give you, okay? I'm not saying that they'll all do it to you. If you trust them, maybe they won't do these kinds of processes on you, but these things are possible, okay? You can establish forms of domination through Limpia, okay? So watch out for that if you're going for Limpia. It's a serious operation, and you do it if you absolutely need to, and not in any other case. Okay. What else do you need to know about Limpia? There are other risks to Limpia as well. Okay. You know, apart from the cultures being put inside you, apart from all these different things, you know, there are risks that, you know, you're also going to be opening portals into different things. Depending on how the Limpia is done, potentially some beings are being called upon to do the Limpia for you, okay, to help and assist with the Limpia. So those beings essentially touch your life in that way as well, so you can go into all kinds of adventures down the line and things like that with that as well. So you have to be careful, you know, with any kind of connection that you allow yourself to be exposed to and establish yourself. But I think that, you know, if you've gone 7 times to a witch for Limpia, this is the least of your concerns, the other beings, because you're going to be under her power. Okay. So Limpia, best done by a qualified practitioner, okay, not done lightly, not done by anyone who's trying any kind of processes and don't know what they're doing, okay? It's a serious operation. You're going for a spiritual cleansing, okay? You need to trust the person who's doing it for you. You don't have it done by any person you just met. You don't know their story. You don't know what they're going to do with you. You don't know if they'll establish energetic hooks within you and drain you from that time forward, okay? Or even try to bring something into you, part of their story that they're bringing something into people, or, you know, or what story they'll tell you about coming 9 times. And, you know, there's many different stories that take place, okay? And basically, the one thing to remember, okay, a lot of people will go to beings they think or know of power for Limpia, okay? You know, of course, we'll go to a being of power for a cleansing because they can do it properly. Yes, they can do it properly, okay? Some of them can. And those are the beings that can really do a Limpia properly, and fight off something, at least if it's coming from someone who's less powerful than them. But one thing to remember, yes, they can do it, okay? They can also do the opposite, okay? And they can also play many games. And one thing to remember is at the level of the beings of power, many energy and power and domination games are played, okay? So it's good to remember that. And when you basically allow someone to have an unfettered energetic access to you on multiple occasions, okay, there are many things that can be done. Okay, things that you don't see when you walk around your everyday life, but these things do exist. Okay, many kind of connections can be established, and many things can be done with these connections that can be turned on, turned off. Things can be drained, things can be downloaded, things can be controlled. Many different things can be done. So be careful with Limpia, because if you allow yourself to be under someone else's total energetic control in that way, as from Limpia cleansing, you should only do this if you know that you absolutely cannot get help yourself in any other way, and you've tried, well, if it's spiritual, you'll have to go for Limpia, right? From someone of power for help. And that's why beings of power are very useful to have around too, because they can help with these things, okay? But you have to trust them. You have to know that they're not going to do something bad to you, you know, because they're the ones who can do something bad to you, and they don't need to be in the same room as you to do that, okay? Like anybody can do anything bad, okay? Anybody has their tools, right? But a being of power spiritually who's empowered doesn't need to be in the same room as someone that they're working on energetically, okay? But when you put yourself right in front of someone, that means a lot. And when you just say, yes, please operate on me in any way that you see fit in your techniques that you don't explain to me prior to doing them, you know, you're putting a lot more faith in this person doing Limpia for you than you're putting, for example, in a heart doctor who's doing a heart operation on you that's actually going to explain the operation and how they do it to you, you know, in not vague words. So this is a little bit about Limpia, okay? It's a tool that can be used for spiritual cleansing. If you're going to go for it, go for someone that is appropriately trustable to do this, okay? If you find someone on the flower path, this is probably the best place to find Limpia, okay? Thank you very much for listening to this video on the Zen Warrior channel.